is ringing, kicking off a new school year in Central PA.
The best part of the day is watching the students walk in the door.
My favorite part is those smiles that you see when students walk into the classroom, to the building, and they see those adults that they've missed for the summer.
Students, teachers, administrators, excited as they get back into the routine. Tonight, CBS 21 is helping you and your child make the grade.
Make sure you're on time. It's so important that you have punctuality in school.
Local experts coming together to make sure you know everything, from keeping them mentally and physically healthy to excelling academically.
Our students have regained some of the learning loss that they experienced during COVID.
A closer look at parents' rights and the policies shaping your child's education. All of your questions answered in the CBS 21 Town Hall. Back to school, making the grade.
Sponsored by Schollenberger, Januzzi, and Wolf.
Thank you for joining us for this special CBS 21 Town Hall, Making the Grade. I'm Candace Scalise. Tonight, we are digging deeper with the goal of helping you and your children have a great school year. Most students are already back in the classroom, so we're looking ahead, answering your questions and helping you prepare for the upcoming school year. I am joined by a panel of experts right now. We have Tony Regal. He is with a psychologist and CEO of Regal Therapeutics Group. We also have Tamara Willis, Dr. Willis here, the superintendent of the Susquehanna Township School District. And we also have Aaron Chapin, a teacher and the president of the Pennsylvania State Education. Thank you all for joining me this afternoon.
Thank you.
We have a lot to talk about, so let's go ahead and get started. It's a new school year. It's an exciting time for a lot of students and teachers. What's new with the Susquehanna Township School District?
So of course we are thrilled to have our learners return after the long summer break. We have hired new teachers. We're excited about that. We are one of the fastest growing, we're actually the fastest growing district in all of Dauphin County. We have new learning coaches who are on staff to support our teachers. We have opened up new classrooms, as you can imagine, with all of our growing students. And so we're just excited to have the students back. We do have a new bus patrol safety protocol in place on all of our buses to make sure students are arriving to school safely and returning home safely. So there's a lot going on this school year that we're excited
And I read about a new athletic policy too. What's going on with that?
So we want to make sure that, of course, Title I is huge. I know all districts have to update their Title I policies. We want to make sure that all of the practices around our academics are fair and equitable. We also want to make sure that our spectators and parents are safe and to make sure that we are just abiding by all of the guidelines. We have a very successful and enjoyable athletic season.
Something that's really new that a lot of people are going to be experiencing is technology, the use of AI. So, Mr. Chapin, when it comes to AI in the schools, what does that look like right now?
Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is, you know, the majority of the businesses today, like 80%, are using AI in some fashion. So we can't hide from it. Our students need to be exposed to it. And our educators and support staff, they're showing them the ways that they should be using it appropriately. Our staff are using it to check the work of our students to make sure that they're not using it in a way that shouldn't be happening. And so it's really about embracing this and moving forward into this culture.
When it comes to cell phones, I know students on their cell phones a lot. We're all on our cell phones, right? I mean, you probably have one in your hand right now. How do you address that as a school, as a township, with these students and on their social media platforms scrolling?
So I know the PA General Assembly just passed a proposal that will give school districts the resources to remove the impact of those cell phones in the school. We have always had a culture around the safe use of cell phones in our district, and so while we encourage students to use them outside of school and in an appropriate way, especially around safety, we ask them not to use them during those instructional times, and we've shared that message with our parents.
So they're not banned right now, though?
They are not banned, but we do encourage parents to remain focused on checking your child's technology. That's huge.
Yeah, I know that there are some school districts in Central PA that have banned cell phones in the classroom. Do you know of any school districts that are using this new law where the school can receive a grant, basically, if they purchase these pouches and the students lock those cell phones up in the pouches and put them in the locker?
Yeah, we've heard of a couple of districts in central Pennsylvania that are starting to do that. And it's something that our members, our educators, have really expressed concern with us about over the last few years, just how disruptive cell phones have been. And I think what we really love is that the legislators are getting involved, but they're leaving it in control of these local communities
Right.
to determine what's best for them.
Yeah, and Tony, what are you seeing? You deal with a lot of students with mental health. How is technology impacting them with cell phones, with social media, and using it?
Well, it's twofold, right? There's a positive aspect of it that it's helping folks connect when connection can be difficult, right? And so across many mediums, gaming platforms, and safe social platforms, it actually creates opportunity for engagement when students may otherwise be isolated. But of course, with that, monitoring the access to what information they have access to, there's many studies that show the impact of certain accesses to certain information on mental health.
Yeah, I want to get more into mental health, but first we do have a question from a viewer on Facebook. They asked, how do you find the correct learning environment for a student? And I know that's kind of a broad question, but do any of you want to answer that?
I think it's important to find that environment that parents need to reach out to their teachers, to their child's teachers, and have that conversation. My colleagues across the state, we're willing to have those conversations, provide advice, and see what really works out best for their own child.
I would echo that. Parents have to be central to answering that question. Take a look at what your child's affinities are. Where do they thrive? And then start to help build those connections around those places where they're already successful. And the school can help with that.
I definitely think it's just part of encouraging the parents to be able to accept that there may be different learning environments rather than trying to fit into a box. And so part of that is encouraging parents that we can look at that, optimizing strengths versus seeing that different placements may mean weaknesses. And so it is encouraging acceptance and really the different benefits from these different options.
What advice do you have for parents as they're heading into this new school year? They might encounter some challenges that are unexpected, especially with teenagers growing up, right? The world is changing rapidly. What would you say as we're heading into a new school year to those parents and students?
Yeah, routine's key, right? We're going through a big adjustment. It's not just for the kids. The parents may be able to sleep in a little bit later during summer because they don't have to worry about getting kids onto the bus. And so it's just patience, right? And giving themselves permission that that's not going to be perfect right out of the gate. So it's going to be a little bit of an adjustment period. We're going to try some things that don't go so great, and that's not a failure. That's part of the learning curve to get to the thing that works better later in the year.
All right, appreciate it. We have a lot to get to. We're going to talk about a lot more coming up. Anything else you guys want to add about mental health as we head to break?
I would simply add for parents as they're preparing for this new school year, please talk to your children. Talk to them regularly. I know sometimes maybe they'll shut down, but continue to try to talk with them. It will pay off, and you'll learn so much more about your child's needs in doing that.
Open conversations.
And just have that open line of communication with teachers. But we've got guidance counselors and nurses. We have a whole team in every school district there to help the children out. So if they're experiencing struggles, we've got a great team in place to help them get to where they need to go.
It takes a village.
Yeah, it certainly does. That's something I've learned through speaking with a lot of administrators and teachers heading into this new school year. Real quick before we wrap up, safety when it comes to heading into school, physical safety. What would you tell the teachers and the students who are nervous to go to school because of safety?
I think as we highlighted conversations and understanding that it's okay to be nervous and not push through that and to try to pretend we're not nervous about those things. So we definitely have to continue to have open dialogue, and it's through accepting that we feel that way that we can start committing to making plans, whether that's reaching out to the school district, asking necessary questions, attending town halls or open houses, or even inside of the family, what kind of things they can do to help the child and family feel safer.
All right, appreciate you guys. We are just getting started with this conversation, and we have a lot of information coming your way. A lot of schools dealing with teacher shortages. You just heard Dr. Willis talking about her school district ramping it up. We're going to explain how the shortage is being addressed and how larger class sizes could impact your child.
This is a CBS 21 News special town hall. Back to school, making the grade. Sponsored by Schollenberger, Januzzi and Wolf.
Many school districts across Pennsylvania are having a hard time finding teachers. We've reported staffing shortages multiple times here at CBS 21. Across the Commonwealth, there are more than 1.9 million students enrolled. There are only 136,000 educators. We did the math. That is 14 students for every one teacher. It's actually better than the national average, which is 16 students for every teacher. But that's not the case for every school district, as some continue to see a growing class size. So let's start with Mr. Chapin. How is the school districts, or how is Central PA filling these open positions?
Well, unfortunately, over the last decade, we've seen a 66% drop in those first-time teaching certificates. And last year alone, we had 2,000 vacancies that were never filled. So we're trying to get as many of our young people excited about being an educator. So at PSCA, we've started working with a group called Educators of being an educator and seeing if it's for them, seeing if that's a career they want to make, and maybe earn some college credits at the same time. But also, you know, Governor Shapiro and legislators on both sides of the aisle, they have really stepped up to the plate. They've realized this is an issue. They've made money, available to student teachers, making college more affordable, which is a big obstacle for many going into in the first place.
When it comes to class sizes, we know that you want less students per teacher. How is a larger class size or more work impacting teachers' mental health?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they're definitely going to start questioning and doubting their own abilities, depending on, meeting the workload and whatnot. And so it is going to be stressful. And I think it's important that they reach out to their supports. I think it's important in what we do to support folks like that is to help them see that their best, what they're able to contribute in a classroom size of 10 is going to look different than a classroom size of 20. But that still does mean that they are giving their best. And so we have to be creative in how we evaluate or how we define that. And I think that's pretty critical. But again, it's supporting them, it's validating that their experience, helping them continue to engage in programs that their districts or the state's able to do, and we're just going to keep advocating for positive change.
Dr. Willis, what's the average class size in the Susquehanna Township School District?
Currently, it's around 26 students per classroom. Of course, at our elementary levels, we try to get those numbers even lower, which is why we did hire additional teachers this school year. But it is definitely a challenge. Even as we hire new teachers, the struggle is getting those certificated teachers into our classrooms. We actually are going to be applying for the Educator Rising grant program through PSCA. Because we also want to make sure that our high school students have an opportunity to become teachers if they choose to.
What do you want parents to know when they're sending their child to class and they have 26 other students in there? How do they know that their child is getting the attention that they need?
Well, our educators make it their mission to make sure that each and every child is getting the attention they need and getting the help they need. And it's not easy, obviously, with larger class sizes, but our teachers, our support staff, they are so dedicated to each and every child. We're there for them, and we're doing whatever we can to meet their needs.
And giving the teachers grace, too. We know they have a lot on their plates.
True.
Anytime education is talked about in Pennsylvania, that conversation often goes back to the money. How much is being spent? Is enough being spent? We know this year more than $1 billion has been added to the books. How some of that money is being put to use. That's next.
This is a CBS 21 News special town hall. Back to school, making the grade. Sponsored by Schollenberger, Januzzi and Wolf.
We have a brand new formula where about 64 cents of every single dollar goes in to this adequacy formula and driven out to the districts that need it most. This is the beginning of those investments, certainly not the end.
The state has invested an eye-popping $11 billion into education this year. And you heard Governor Josh Shapiro talking there about a new formula, which is providing money to districts that have been historically underfunded. There is more than $7 million extra to the Harrisburg School District, $6 million to Central Dauphin, and more than $1 million to Susquehanna Township School District. So, Dr. Willis, where's that money being spent in your district?
In our district, we're actually using those funds to touch the classroom. So we, as I mentioned earlier, we're hiring more teachers to reduce those class sizes, but we're also spending quite a bit of that money on mental health supports for our students. So we have therapeutic classrooms in all of our buildings, K to 12. We also are using those funds to bring in outside contractors like ESS, and they provide in-school counseling for those learners that struggle, may have anxiety about coming to school. We're using those funds to actually support teachers, but we're also using it to support the professional development of our professional staff, making sure that they have time to collaborate, making sure that they have time to review student data. All of those monies are going directly to the classroom for our learners.
Impacting those students.
Yes.
We've heard a lot about emotional social learning this year when I've spoken with teachers and staff. Are you happy with how this money, or are you happy, I guess, with the end, with the $11 billion and where it's being dispersed?
Well, we're excited at PSEA over this beginning of this great investment. Again, we've had a lot of schools that have been historically underfunded for generations. So we're seeing school districts, and thank goodness, they're investing in things that just haven't been able to be fixed over the years. But we're also seeing school districts that are paying higher wages because they need to attract teachers. We'd love to see, school districts starting with a minimum $60,000 for new teachers. We'd love to see our support staff getting at least $20 an hour. And this is going to attract the best and the brightest to our classrooms and schools. It is absolutely what we need to happen.
Do you know what the lowest salary is typically for a teacher starting out in those underfunded school districts?
Well, I mean, the basic, there is a minimum salary required by, state law, which is below $20,000. And there is one district in the state, but obviously that doesn't happen very often. But we really think we have some school districts that just are not paying their staff, their teachers, even $60,000. We think in order to attract the best and the brightest, you got to pay that kind of money.
For sure, yeah, and it's a competitive field out there. You talked about the mental health resources and money being poured into that. When it comes to district policies, there's been a lot of discussion really in the past few years that I've seen as far as new policies that are coming about in school districts. What would you say to teachers and to students when these policies are being brought about? If there's a student who comes up to a teacher and says, listen, I identify as LGBTQ+, whatever it is that they identify as, how do you advise teachers to handle that?
I mean, at the end of the day, I tell my grad students that when all else fails, just listen. No matter what role we're in as a parent, as a teacher, even as counselors, right? If all else fails and we're not sure what to go, it's just to listen. And that it is okay to say, I don't know, right? I don't know, but I want to get you help. And then feeling comfortable and reaching out to the resources that the districts, the state, whether they're out into the community or internal, and follow up with making that connection. And even as parents, we're not bad parents to say, I don't know how to help you, but I want to, and so I'm going to find that answer. And so I think if we're able to do that, we're going to have much better conversations and support kiddos much better.
Goes back to the conversation piece you were all talking about of having that open dialogue with your student. Yes. How do you advise teachers to handle this? Because I know a lot of school districts, there have been changes about teachers need to tell the parents right away. What are you saying to all of the school districts in Central PA?
Well, absolutely agree. It's listening to these students, but it's respecting them. It's trying to find the help that we can offer in the schools, but we also remind our educators, follow the district's policies. What the school board administration has set up, they have policies. So refer to those as often as you can.
And Dr. Willis, you have in the Susquehanna Township School District a policy of diversity and equity. What has that been like, having that at your district? What has the response been like?
it's interesting because our culture drove the creation of that policy. So the policy did not dictate how we would embrace each other in our district. We were already doing it in so many ways. Because we are so diverse, our students are, they welcome different backgrounds, different gender identities. It's just been a part of the fabric of who we are as a district. And so when I see some of the other districts really struggling with this, I'm reminded of how fortunate we are that it's really kind of baked into who we are as a district.
Yeah, a lot of policies, and we expect this year to bring about more conversations. Any advice that you have, Dr. Regal, for these teachers in these school districts, other than listening, but just with mental health in general as we are heading into this new school year?
It is kid to kid. It is situation by situation, whether it's bullying, whether it's safety, whatever that may be. And again, it does go back to recognizing that, with that many students, it could be challenging. And so, I would be hopeful and let them know, at least on ours, that they're not alone, right? That they, have to be willing to ask. And again, I think it all goes back to that internal ego or voice that may stop us for asking for help because we just don't want to be viewed that way. But I think asking for help is a tremendous strength. And so if a student is asking for us, we can model that as adults by asking for help ourselves.
You and I were talking before this, and you said 31 years of experience. What advice do you have for teachers starting this new school year before we toss to break?
It's having a great line of communication with your colleagues, but it's also building those relationships with the parents of the students that you have. It will go a long way, and it works both ways. It's really the best advice I can give to parents as well. Having that line of communication, but being a teacher, it's the greatest profession you can be part of. And I tell them, enjoy this ride because there's no better profession you can be part of.
All right, we're going to be right back after the final word. We want to thank our panel for joining us for this town hall. Dr. Tony Regal, the and then Dr. Tamara Willis, and we have Mr. Aaron Chapman. My name is Candace Scalise. CBS 21 News at 6 is next. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for watching the CBS 21 News Special Town Hall. Back to School, Making the Grade. Sponsored by Schollenberger, Januzzi, and Wolf.